So welcome back to Newcastle. Welcome back to another one of our videos, and we're here today charting the history and the legacy of a brewery based in Newcastle. Of course, this is Newcastle and there's only one place we can start. So welcome back to Newcastle, and welcome to the one and only, and quite literally the one and only, Newcastle Brown Ale. So this iconic beer is synonymous with Newcastle. This beer is Newcastle. Its history lies deep and proud in the area, although sadly in recent times its mystique and identity has suffered from quite a bit of a personality clash. So Newcastle Breweries can trace its origins back to here, Gateshead. John Barras established a brewery here in 1770. However, his company purchased the Tyne Brewery just up there on Bath Lane in Newcastle. So our story begins just between Corporation Street and Bath Lane, home to the Tyne Brewery, in 1868 and 1870 by the Tyne Brewing Company, and in 1889 was registered as a John Barras and Company Limited, and the following year formed a new company called the Newcastle Breweries. So Newcastle Brown Ale was first introduced in 1927 after 3 years of development at Newcastle Breweries by Colonel Jim Porter, a First World War hero and assistant brewer at the brewery. He was tasked with making a beer for the rising demand of bottled beer. So brown ale became popular with the workers of the heavy industries based around Newcastle, such as the proud workers of the coal industry. Or the grafters in the shipbuilding yards. This here is Swan Hunters, or indeed was. Once was a big dominant force in the shipbuilding industry here on the banks of the River Tyne. So right here is Sergendum, a Roman fort dating back to 122 AD and forms part of the epic Hadrian's Wall. Now if you stood in the middle of that area of the ancient fort back in 1973, the view would have been totally different. The view would have been this. Wow, so that picture shows the dominance of shipbuilding on the River Tyne. So Newcastle Brown Ale also took the market by storm in 1928 when it won all the major awards at the 1928 Breweries exhibition in London. This achievement is still proudly displayed on each bottle today. And talking of the bottle label, the proud and iconic blue star was added to the label also in about 1928. This blue star was a representation of all the original 5 breweries that merged to form the Newcastle Breweries Limited. So these breweries in question was a John Barras & Co. of Newcastle upon Tyne, the William Henry Allison & Co. of North Shields, James John and William Henry Allison of Sunderland, the Carr Brothers and Carr of North Shields, and Swinburne & Co. of Gateshead. So let's have a closer look at the 5 breweries that made up the star of Newcastle Breweries. So the Swinburne Brewery is based around the company's headquarters here in the beautiful buildings named after the Swinburne family, and at the back was the old Gateshead Town Hall. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure where the brewery was located. Maps do suggest that a brewery was located here on this rather fetching car park. However, this brewery was the Tucker's Brewery. Some searches led me here, to the Royal Hotel in Dunstan. This would kind of make sense as a pub and brewery, quite common back in the day. Please let me know if this is correct. So this is a High Brewery in North Shields. William Henry Allison and Co. occupied here. Brewery ceased trading here in about 1925 and was converted into these flats in around 2000. Next, just down the road in North Shields, is a Carr Brothers and Carr Brewery, located in Low Lights, North Shields, just about a mile away from the Allison's Brewery, right next to the Low Lights Tavern, still with his Newcastle Brewery star still on proud display, and we can just make out the old brewery buildings in the back. Finally, and just a bit further down the road in Sunderland, we have the James, John and William Henry Allison Brewery, located here at the former Weymouth Brewery. Although owned by brewer James Duker, again records do indicate that the Allisons were utilising the brewery, perhaps as a bottling facility. Let me know if anyone has any further information. And here we are in Sunderland. So as we can see, it's now apartments and even a bar and nightclub prior. But this building was once a Monk Weymouth Brewery until brewing ceased in 1939. The Blue Star logo of Newcastle Breweries are still proudly adjourned on many pubs in and around Newcastle. The Blue Star on the bottle of Newcastle Brown has remained much unchanged since its launch. However, it did change to include the Millennium Bridge, much now a great addition to the iconic bridges of Newcastle. There have been many limited edition bottles which have now celebrated many events and figures and milestones around Newcastle. You can even get personalised bottles now. How about that? Equally, the one and only was first mentioned in a Newcastle newspaper in 1928, but it took till the 1980s for the slogan to be adopted onto the bottle of Newcastle Brown. In 1960, Newcastle Breweries merged with Scottish brewers to form Scottish and Newcastle. This merger led to a much wider distribution of Newcastle Brown. This led to many names of Newcastle Brown that it's known by: Newkie Brown, or Dog, as in a bottle of dog. Basically translated to, I'm going to take the dog for a walk, or basically me and the dog are off to the pub. So Newcastle Brown Ale cemented its proud roots here in the town, and along with its other major passion, Newcastle United. The Newcastle Brown Ale logos often adorn the black and white shirts of Newcastle United, coinciding with the most successful period of the club's history. This sponsorship also led to the production of some limited edition bottles to honour the achievements of the club and indeed its heroes, and such signings of the one, the only, Alan Shearer. In May 2005 marked the end of this incredible era, and the last production run of Newcastle Brown came off the production line here at the Tyne Brewery. So now Newcastle Brown no longer belonged to Newcastle. It sparked a move and indeed incredible controversy to a brewery only a couple of miles away. So this brewery was not in Newcastle. It was across the Tyne, in Gateshead, ironically where we first started. After the acquisition of the Federation Brewery, which was located here in Dunstan, production moved here. To some it was like ripping the soul out of Newcastle Brown. Indeed, its protected geographical status, which is synonymous with products like champagne, Scotch whisky or even a Cornish pasty, was under threat. Indeed, this status was subsequently lost, and with the history and connection this bay had with Newcastle, and when the production of Newcastle Brown moved yet again to here. It's now brewed here. This is Heineken in Tadcaster in North Yorkshire. So we're stood here outside the offices of what was the Newcastle Breweries on Percy Street in Newcastle. And Newcastle Brown has undergone quite a change. But does it matter where beer is made? That's not for me to judge. You find me here in Blue Star Square, just between Bath Lane and Corporation Street, the site of the Newcastle Brewery. Today's legacy is commemorated by this plaque behind me here. Part of the brewery originated in Gateshead in 1770 and relocated here as a poignant nod to the iconic beer known throughout the world and brewed right here on this very spot. Newcastle's Tyne Brewery was demolished in 2007. It is now home to the innovative Newcastle Helix as part of the regeneration of the land. Indeed, the former Scottish Newcastle offices now serve as a hotel, but it still proudly displays a legendary blue star on the side of the building. The Federation Brewery was closed in 2010 and demolished in 2013. The offices have now been repurposed as a unique venue centre, still acknowledging its proud past. Still, this icon of beers is still alive. It's still enjoyed today worldwide. In 2019, production of this beer also now included the Lagunitas Brewery in America. Colonel James Porter went on to have a great career at Newcastle Breweries, and indeed Scottish in Newcastle, where he became the company's vice president. His legacy is Newcastle Brown Ale, and remains today the one, the only. Cheers.